Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this Abzan Reanimator deck, which has a 2-card combo that can win us the game, or more precisely, prevents us from losing the game. Herald of Eternal Dawn is a 7-mana 6/6 angel with flash and flying, says you can't lose the game and your opponents cannot win the game. In and of itself, not a great card, since most standard decks will have answers to a 6/6 creature, but if we bring it back with Perennation, it's a whole different story. This 6-mana sorcery returns a permanent card from our graveyard to the battlefield with both hexproof and indestructible. So now there's not that many answers left that are commonly played that can deal with a hexproof and indestructible Herald, and then the Herald can just stick around and eventually win the game, whether it's by attacking for lethal damage or waiting for the opponent to draw from an empty library. So that's our game plan. Now, of course, there are still answers out there that can deal with a hexproof and indestructible Herald, especially in black. You've got various edict effects that can make us sacrifice a creature. Cards like Sheoldred's Edict, Liliana of the Veil, and Momentum Breaker can all potentially answer the Herald. And then we also have Nowhere to Run, played in the various Pixie decks, which can prevent us from protecting the Herald with hexproof, so then additional removal spells can still maybe take it out. And then in white, there's Sunfall, which can exile all creatures, so that can also answer a hexproof and indestructible Herald. So to hopefully extract those problematic cards out of the opponent's deck, we're also running 2 copies of the Stonebrain, 2 mana to play and then 2 to exile, and then we can name a card and extract all copies out of the opponent's hand, library, and graveyard. And then to round things out, we have additional ways to tutor up our combo pieces, with 2 copies of Lively Dirge being a way of putting the angel straight into our graveyard for 3 mana total. And then Insatiable Avarice can be quite flexible as a 3-mana draw 3 at the cost of 3 life, but we can also use it as a Vampiric Tutor, searching up a card and putting it on the top of our deck, so that can either find the Angel if we have another discard outlet at the ready, or perhaps find our Perennation if we didn't draw one already. And then rounding things out, plenty of creature interaction, because Perennation is quite pricey at 6 mana, so some aggro decks can definitely kill you before you can pull it off, especially since most other reanimation effects typically only cost 4 mana, so then we do need some sweepers with Day of Judgment and Split Up at 3 mana. And then some spot removal. At 1 mana there's Cut Down, and then at 2 mana we've got the full set of Bitter Triumph, which also doubles up as a discard outlet to maybe discard or Angel if it's in hand. And then a Get Lost can also deal with enchantments, which can be relevant if we're facing cards like Nowhere to Run, as we mentioned. And then we also have the full set of Collector's Vault, which is both a discard outlet, as well as a way to maybe make some treasures and to ramp out our Perennation a turn ahead of schedule. And then the Iron Crag, making a mana, can also help us cast Perennation on turn 5 already. So that's kind of our deck in a nutshell. And then the mana base also has access to Sandstep Citadel as a tri-land, and then a few additional Surveil lands, which are also useful to sculpt our draws in the early turns, enabling the Verge lands as well. So we do have just a splash of green for Perennation. The treasures from Collector's Vault can also help cast it, and then mostly a black-white mana base, so we can cast our triple black Avarice, as well as the double white Split Up or Day of Judgment. So that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. We have Perennation in hand, and then, yeah, some interaction. Avarice can likely find a way to set up our graveyard. And I'll keep a Citadel. Need to hit some land drops, even though these enter tapped. Turn 1 Swamp. Don't love to see that, since that means they might have answers, even if we do Perennation back the Angel. For now, I want to get rid of maybe the Get Lost. Don't see myself destroying the enchantment necessarily. Drew the Herald, that's nice. So now I could go Mortuary, keep up Triumph, discarding Heralds, and then maybe Avarice to draw 3 in the future. Or we could draw 3 now. And then I still don't have to discard to hand size. Yeah, I guess if they have more discard spells, especially ones that look at my hands, I would rather fire this off now. So we have the combo plus a bunch of removal, which is a good setup. So for now, can just Surveil. Another Avarice. We could use it to eventually tutor up our Stonebrain, although am I going to have time to set that up? We already have one in hand, so I think we decline. If they have a discard spell for Perennation, I might need to Avarice to find another one. And a Momentum Breaker makes me discard. Yeah, that's a tough choice. I guess I can ditch the Bitter Triumph, but then if they play Deep Cavern Bats, I cannot get my Perennation back. I think I still keep the Avarice. So maybe a land goes and hope to draw another one in time. And another Momentum Breaker. Alright, I guess Bitter Triumph goes now. Alright, I've got the land. So now the question is, do I try and Avarice, get Stonebrain, and then I guess we know about Momentum Breaker, which could have been an answer to the Perennation. So we could try and get the other copies. Hope they don't have cards like Liliana of the Veil. But if I Avarice for Stonebrain, they make me discard Perennation, I'm gonna be pretty sad. So this might just be a draw 3 situation. And then I could play Vault. Sure. And then next turn I can go for Perennation if we feel like it, but we can also play it slow. Clausots can also make us discard. But we're not necessarily in danger of dying. So if I Avarice for Stonebrain, I can draw into it and cast it, but not yet sacrifice it. And then next turn, I also won't necessarily have the mana to both Perennation and activate Stonebrain. So it's still gonna take me a while to set up. So in that case, I maybe just go for it here and hope for the best. And then if they don't have another Edict effect in hand, I can eventually Stonebrain to get rid of them. Yeah, it's definitely a tough spot here. I think I do go for it before they draw like a Duress to get the Perennation out of my hand. And I might still have time to draw another Perennation if they do have the Edict. Their opponent starts leveling up the talent. Don't mind seeing that. Now we also have to watch out with Collector's Vault and Clausots, because otherwise they would trigger the ability if I discard. Drew the Stonebrain, so that's lucky. And I think it makes sense to just go for Momentum Breaker, but we might also have to go for Liliana of the Veil. Alright, they had 2 more breakers in library, and then the full set of Liliana. Any other answers? So yeah, it's just Liliana and Momentum Breaker that we have to worry about. So I just need to Avarice, get the other Stonebrain, and that one can go for Liliana. So they have 1 turn to top deck it. And then I guess I'll stay back for now. Bandit's Talent gets our Citadel. Triggers Clausots. Level up talents. Okay, looks like the coast is clear. Opponent does trigger their talents a bunch. But we're gonna take away their only answer. And then I'm gonna double check that they don't have any other outs. But I'm pretty sure here. They can drain us with Shieldred and with the talents. But they don't have any way of removing my Angel. And then whether we win with damage or by milling the opponent, it's kind of up to them. If I attack, our opponent attacks back and gains 4, so that's probably not to my advantage. So yeah, we're just gonna sit here and wait until our opponent mills out, which I guess with the talents, that's gonna speed up the process. And our opponent concedes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand seems functional. Just need to find the Perennation and some green mana. But we've got Interaction, a little bit of ramp, and then Herald ready to be discarded. Alright, found our green, so yeah, we're just a Perennation away from maybe a turn 5 Herald. And our opponent's not applying any meaningful pressure. They are mono-white, so potentially have to take Sunfall into consideration. As we see Virtue make a knight. So then we may need to Stonebrain them before we try and go for the combo. Sheltered by goes my Ironcrag. Fair enough. So we can still try to cut it down next turn, pay the ward. As we draw Perennation, perfect. Yeah, any reason to do it now versus waiting? I guess I'll go for it now. And then if they are a tokens deck, split up should be effective. Overlord makes some tokens. Alright, so no Stonebrain in sight. I guess for now we'll split up still. Even though if I wanted to set up Herald, I would need to prioritize Bitter Triumph to discard it. And now a Scavenger. So it doesn't strike me like a deck that's necessarily running Sunfall, but you never know. So if they Demolition Field my Citadel, I do not have a basic forest to search up, so that could slow us down. Alright, found the Avarice. So now I kind of like Avarice try and get Stonebrain first. Just to make sure, since we're not in any danger of dying. And I can cast both halves here. So I also get to draw 3. Maybe shouldn't have played my land yet in case we draw tap land. And then I get Stonebrain, just so we can make sure there's no Sunfall in our future. Alright, they do have Elspeth, that's okay. I do have double Perennation in hand, so I could honestly also consider casting it now and then Stonebraining next turn, but I also don't see myself taking 13. And if they do have a Sunfall in hand, I would rather have them get the Overlord exiled as well with it. So yeah, let's just play it safe. Although I guess on the flip side, if they do end up using Demolition Field, I might regret it. So name Sunfall. They have a Get Lost in hand, and yeah, no Sunfall in the deck. That's alright. I don't see any other answers to the combo that we should be concerned about. Okay. And then I guess I'll keep a green source, but if they Demolition Field, they would make me shuffle anyways. But they probably have better ways to spend their mana here than just destroying an innocent Citadel. As our opponent casts a Virtue. And Perennation for Herald should seal the deal. So now it's just a matter of, does our opponent concede, or do we have to sit here until they draw from an empty library? Since I'm probably not going to be able to get through all their tokens. So their team goes flying. And yeah, I guess I can start having my opponent draw 3 just to help them out. Or we can pass and wait for the inevitable. It's kind of just a waiting game now. But yeah, we double checked that they didn't have any answers, so... Opponent casts another Overlord. Maybe we speed things up by getting a sweeper here and demoralizing our opponents, but I can block, or I could get to 0 or less life just to prove a point. Yeah, our opponent doesn't seem to be willing to concede. So then we need to get a little bit creative to maybe speed things along. So I could Avarice for another Avarice, have my opponent draw 3, but it doesn't really make a dent in their library. So maybe I just get a sweeper. I guess split up also would have done it. Elspeth keeps making tokens. They're not willing to throw away any of their tokens, even though they've got a few to spare. Alright, guess we'll try it this way. And start attacking. Maybe should finish off Elspeth first. So we're actively hoping they start drawing their card draw engines like Caretaker's Talent to speed things along. But yeah, we'll deal with Elspeth. Opponent makes some more fish tokens on the way out. Do we have any other angels to reanimate? Not yet. Or I can start getting Stonebrain just to thin out their deck some more. And I could name... Let's see, what's maybe a flying creature? I guess the Overlord could get in the way. Or we could just name Elspeth again. So it's one of those. And they had one Elspeth left. There's also Ghostly Dancers that flies. Carrot Cake can gain life. So that's about it. End of turn we can flash in another Herald to speed things up. That one they can get lost, but then I can Perennation it back. Enduring Innocence is fine. I guess it is a life linker which can buy them a little bit more time. So we'll see if they get lost. They do. Fair enough. So I think the plan now is untap, Perennation back another Heralds, and cast Day of Judgment. Could have also gone exploring, but shouldn't make a huge difference. Okay. So next turn we're attacking for 12. But yeah, theoretically we could just keep passing the turn until our opponent draws from an empty library, and that'll win us the game as well. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Got our colors, Perennation, and then Avarice can maybe find our Angel to then discard to the Bitter Triumph. Or we can find a Lively Dirge facing black-green. Get Lost could be fine, but I would rather hit my land drops here, since we do need to get up to 6 mana. Collector's Vault, another discard outlet. So for now, I could play the Vault, and then next turn play Ironcrag, activate Vault. If they have removal for this somehow, then next turn I can still maybe go Ironcrag plus Triumph. Opponent did have a Tear Asunder, as it turns out, so no Vault. And Glissa is next, so now we can make the play we described last turn. And I should probably just main phase this, paying 3 life. So our opponent may be a mid-range deck. Not sure if they'll have answers to our Perennation combo. Well, a Road Watcher can now get back Glissa, so that's annoying. They also milled a Skirmish Rhino, so that's one of the payoffs for going Abzan. Alright, split up. I guess I'm unable to cast since I'm missing double white. So then, yeah, I could still Avarice for Lively Dirge. Or I guess just get the Angel since Bitter Triumph can discard it. Yeah, that's maybe the way to go. I guess we could also Avarice, get the Angel, and then mill it with the Mortuary, so that it's already in the graveyard. And then if I draw an untapped land, we can Perennation next turn. Don't hate that idea. Could also just draw 3 here. Maybe find an untapped land, still cast a Bitter Triumph. But let's go for the more straightforward play. And get Heralds. Put it in the graveyard. And then with an untapped land, we've got Perennation. Take 6. Glissa draws. Possible our opponent's got something like Liliana of the Veil in their deck. That could still answer our Angel. We'll have to wait another turn. And a Backstreet would be double white for split up, but at this point it's maybe too slow. Since if they do have an answer to the Ironcrag, I would rather find an untapped land. And then I could be convinced to just discard the split up here. Get rid of Glissa. And then hope that they don't have any answers left. Possible they have Sunfall in the deck as well. As we draw another Herald. Opponent animates the Fortress. Okay. I guess I would rather take out the Fortress. Bitter Triumph. I guess we'll start attacking. Sentinel's acceptable. If they are digging, it means that they do have answers in the deck. So we'll maybe slow them down a bit here. And since we're at 0 life, even though we can't lose the game, I still cannot pay 3 life if I don't have 3 life to begin with. So that's an important interaction to keep in mind. Gotta watch out for maybe a Sheoldred's Edict, so finding another creature to put in play could be useful. Opponent passes. Well, just gotta try and get the game over with as quickly as possible now. My hope is that their hand is just a bunch of spot removal that cannot target the Herald. As we get in for 6. And are threatening lethal next turn. And Red Knight draws. Can they find an answer? They cannot, and there we have it. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Dirge finds the Angel. We've got Perennation already, keep lands. And we even have a bit of ramp with Ironcrag, so we can set it up on turn 5. And then we've got some meaningful interaction for aggro. Opponent blue-red, so this could be the new prowess deck with a steel cutter. As our opponent plots a slick shot. Alright, we drew the Angel. So it's potentially risky to dirge now. But if I don't find a discard outlet for the Heralds, it is important that we go through that step. But I guess I would rather just keep up my removal for slick shot, and then if we draw an extra land I can dirge and still keep Get Lost available. There's a cutter. So now I could also take the hit and then split up in my turn to deal with both. Keep the Get Lost for later. And the land is excellent. So all tapped creatures are gone. Because yeah, we don't want to underestimate a slick shot. Bitter Triumph is perfect, since that helps me discard Heralds, so then I don't even need to cast the Dirge. Although I guess we still need one extra land. Another cutter. And plot slick shot. Surprised I didn't just cast it to get 2 monks. But I guess I'm not going to complain. So then I could still Dirge. Or we can keep both Triumph and Get Lost up, which is probably more relevant. And then just hope to draw land number 5 to cast Perennation. Slick shot into stock up. Don't think they're running any hexproof tricks, so I'll let that resolve. Small chance they have Spell Pierce in the list, so we also want to kind of flush that out. Opponent goes for Monstrous Rage. I can maybe start with a Get Lost. And then Bitter Triumph the slick shots. Alright, they did actually have Spell Pierce, so we take 11, but now a land wins us the game. That's not a land, so now we're potentially facing lethal. So I can activate Vault now. And then next turn we would have the mana. But it's probably not going to happen. If they have anything left to trigger Prowess. And yeah, Opt will do it. Yeah, close one. If it weren't for Spell Pierce, we save ourselves 5 damage last turn. Maybe they still get there with all the Steel Cutters. But of course Spell Pierce on Perennation would also be disastrous. So almost survived against what's probably the deck to beat in Standard right now. Just a mana away from Perennation, and once Perennation lands, I don't think they'll have any answers to it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand might be way too slow against aggro, since we have a lot of tap lands, no sweeper to catch up. But against other decks, it's nice to have Stone Brain to make sure they don't have answers to the combo. And then we already have Herald plus Vault to discard it. Looks like a Pixie deck. So against Pixie, Stone Brain is pretty valuable, since we can either name Momentum Breaker or Nowhere to Run, which are both potentially answers to the combo. And the rest is gonna have a look. So at least they cannot take Perennation, but they can maybe take the Stone Brain. Goes for Vault, also makes sense. And I'll keep a land on top. If they ever make me discard, we can ditch the Herald. But yeah, they found another Duress. Not what we wanted to see. Take Stone Brain this time. So yeah, Momentum Breaker is the priority for the second Stone Brain. Can also technically Perennation back Stone Brain if we need to do that first. But at least we're not under any meaningful pressure at the moment. And a Lively Dirge can also set up Herald. Is that worth it? Feels like they're gonna make me discard at some point. So then I would rather dig towards another Stone Brain. This might also be a build with Kaito. So talent level up, get Duress back. I guess we'll just get lost in response. Found another Vault. Seems worthwhile now. Small chance I draw into a cut down. So I should maybe see if we draw into it. Find another Herald. So can cast Avarice with both modes, getting another Stone Brain. And then still play a land after. Found the cut down. Think I still get the tap land in play. And then extra Perennation could be worthwhile. If they do eventually deal with the Heralds, I can get it back. But yeah, Nowhere to Run is also problematic, and that's also why this combo probably won't ever be truly competitive. Demolition Field can make me shuffle away the Perennation. And they're slowly whittling away at our green sources. Nightmare makes me discard. Maybe should have cast a cut down beforehand. Still probably discarding the Heralds, although yeah, it's close, because I could also just cast it for 7, but that's probably not really the plan. Auto attacks. So if I cut down now, they could have this down in big enough, bounce Nightmare, bounce Vault, and save the altar. So that would be kind of annoying. So yeah, I'll let damage happen. So I should have cast a cut down before the prowess resolved, but wasn't counting on the untapped swamp here. So don't think Perrennation's gonna cut it right now. So we'll Stone Brain. And then I think Momentum Breaker still makes more sense, even though Nowhere to Run is guaranteed to be in their deck and can also basically answer the combo. So maybe I should go for Nowhere to Run. And then if they don't have Momentum Breaker, I don't need to worry about it. Alright, so they do have Nowhere to Run. Any Momentum Breakers? No. Alright, that's great news. So there's still negates in their deck. But yeah, without Nowhere to Run, they shouldn't have any answers to the combo once it's in play. And then if I try and cut down the altar now, they could sack it to Fountain Port, so I guess we'll wait. Bones maybe digging with a Nightmare instead, that also makes sense. So then I guess I'll cut down now. So they also can sneak in Kaito. probably should have let them surveil or scry here before we cut down, just so they have less information. Opponent passes. So now the only concern is that they drew into one of their 2 negates. But I guess we're gonna find out. And our opponent explodes. Alright, Perennation gets it done. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a sweeper. We have heralds. Dirge is a little redundant. But just need to find our Perennation here. I'll try it. Facing black, if they have some discard spells, it's not a disaster, since Herald will end up in the graveyard at some point. The bad news is that they might have Liliana of the Veil, as well as Sheoldred's Edict, which are answers to our Perennation. Let's maybe surveil. Another Duress takes Dirge. Alright, Vault was a good draw. And there's Annex, so it is still kind of a Demon's deck. So maybe less likely to have those Edict effects that I mentioned. As we draw another Herald. But yeah, it is possible that we need to Stonebrain the opponent first, just to make sure. And Archfiend is going to close out the game pretty quickly, so we don't have much time. Cut down doesn't help. So I probably still discard another Herald at this point. But I might try and cast the other one. Or I can ditch like a cut down. Although they might have Deep Cavern Bat that we can remove with it later. Although, yeah, we're definitely running out of time here. I'll still discard a Herald. Take 6. And it's going to be another Annex. So we lose 4 life. And let's see here, if I activate Vault and play an untapped land, I can still cast the Heralds, so then I wouldn't be able to play the Backstreets first to surveil. But the hope is that we draw Perennation here. Or at least an answer to the Archfiend, and Split Up could work. So then I can ditch the Swamp. Split Up. Destroying all tapped creatures. Now we're still dead to our opponent casting a Bloodletter next turn, since we would get drained for 8. And Cut Down doesn't answer it. Opponent just makes a demon, so we fall to 4. Probably our last chance to draw Perennation. And Dirge doesn't quite do it here. Of course I can cast the Herald, but our opponent's bound to have an answer to it. I guess I still get a redraw. Get Lost. Can answer a demon. So we'll pass. But yeah, if my plays just Get Lost the demon token, they make another one and I die. So Herald's the only play I have. But one has to imagine that there's gonna be a Go for the Throat involved. Still no blocks. So they didn't have instant speed removal. But Liliana, so yeah, even had we found the Perennation here, they had the answer lined up. So this seems like a pretty tough matchup. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Our hand seems fine. Not sure if Stonebrain is going to be necessary in the matchup, but against black it usually is. But we'll wait and see. Black-white, maybe a graveyard deck, Momentum Breaker. Well, don't mind seeing that on turn 1. Can discard my Herald to it. And we drew Perennation. Although now I probably need to Stonebrain additional copies of Momentum Breaker. So what makes sense, I guess just cast Stonebrain in case they have targeted discard. And then next turn I can play tap land and activate. This can only exile creatures from their own graveyard. So this might be kind of a pixie deck. Could just be black-white. Nightmare. And what do we get rid of? Possible the land's more valuable than the Ironcrag at this point. Could also ditch Get Lost, since it's not like the Hex Mage is all that threatening by itself. And then, yeah, it's gonna be Mortuary plus Stonebrain. And hope they only have Momentum Breaker as an Edict, although I guess they're likely to have Nowhere to Run as well. So that can also eventually prevent us from having the guaranteed win. So yeah, they have triple Nowhere to Run. And then Dragonstorm doesn't really matter. The new Kirin to pick things up. So yeah, besides Nowhere to Run, I don't see anything too relevant, but Nowhere to Run can also enable Get Lost or Parting Gust to answer the Angel. So we will have to Stonebrain them again to really lock things up. For now, another Herald in the graveyard. But yeah, I guess if we Perennation twice with 2 Angels, it becomes pretty difficult for them to take them both out before we just attack for lethal. So that might be good enough. Don't need Citadel. So next turn we can already cast our first Perennation. As our opponent's gonna sack the Nightmare to go digging. We'll see if they want to lock down just for the Ironcrag, I doubt it. But yeah, Pixie, pick up Momentum Breaker. I guess I hadn't thought about that possibility. The one that's in play can still be put to use. So yeah, that's actually a problem, although now Get Lost is a solution. So let's see, Parting Gust I guess could flicker the Pixie, which in turn can pick up the Breaker, but they don't have double white up at the moment. So yeah, if they draw White Source, they could make that play and then Breaker away my Angel. So I might be better off using Get Lost on the Momentum Breaker now, so we don't run into any issues. Even though we'll take a bit more damage now. And if they sack Breaker to gain 4, they don't get to explore. Alright, so we should still be fine. Just gotta watch out for Nowhere to Run into, maybe a Parting Gust. And then we've got back-to-back Perennations. Probably could have kept land in hand to discard instead. Because yeah, Parting Gusts exiles. So that does get around the Indestructible, assuming there's a Nowhere to Run in play to ignore the hexproof part. But now we're gonna lay on the pressure with a second Herald, and hopefully that's good enough. Alright, and that'll do it. So we got to see this Abzan Perennation combo deck in action. And yeah, it's definitely not an easy time trying to combo with Perennation in a format where there's a lot of aggro decks that can win on turn 3 already. There's decks running cards like Nowhere to Run and other edict effects that can get around your hexproof and indestructible, and even the white control decks have cards like Sunfall to exile your Angel once it's in play. So quite a few problems to deal with, which means that having either counter spells or effects like Stonebrain to extract those out of the opponent's deck is vital, and then hopefully you can pull off the combo before the opponent attacks you for lethal. So not the most competitive deck, I wouldn't recommend it for the ranked ladder, but definitely a very unique combo that showcases some pretty nifty interactions. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.